This video is sponsored by GPD Host. They offer a variety of affordable hosting plans with flexible billing cycles. These plans include a free SSL certificate, a free domain name, website builder, and many other services, including free website migration with no downtime. To find out more, visit gpdhost.com or click the link in the description below. Hey, what's going on, guys? So a couple days ago, I was at the gym and I was listening to the Syntax podcast with Wes Boss and Scott Talinsky, which is an excellent podcast. I highly recommend it. But I was listening to one of their first episodes, this webcam and audio access with WebRTC and getUserMedia. And I knew very little about WebRTC and the getUserMedia API before this, but after listening to this podcast, it made me want to run home and start building stuff and working with it. Basically what it is, what WebRTC is a collection of communication protocols that can be used to do a lot of different things over peer-to-peer connections, real-time connections, and utilize things like video and audio, so building like video chat applications, things like that. And we're not going to do anything that spectacular, but what we're going to do is build this here, which I just called VidSnapper. And basically what it's doing is it's using the getUserMedia API to get a stream from my webcam and output it to a video element in the browser. All right, so we're going to do that, and in addition to that, we're going to be able to take photos from the webcam. Okay, so if I click take photo, you'll see it'll just pop it down here, and I can also change filters. So what I did is I added a select list, and I added a change event. So if I select grayscale, what it'll do is it'll apply a CSS filter to the video object, and it'll change the way it looks. Okay, we have sepia or sepia, however you say it. And if I take a photo, you'll see that it'll actually use that effect. Okay, we have invert, hue, blur, and contrast. And I think there's some other filters too, but I think that this is good for now. And you guys can experiment with this if you want. And you can see I can clear them out and the filter will go back to normal. So that's what we'll be building. I think it's a pretty cool application. It's not like something you'd sell or anything like that. It's just, it just snaps pictures. Maybe you could hook it to some kind of API where you could store the images in a database or in some kind of back end. But the purpose of this video is really to introduce you guys to this technology, and we don't need any external libraries. This stuff is all in Chrome. I think it's in Chrome, Firefox, and I think Opera now. And I believe that there's polyfills that you can use for other browsers as well. But I figured it was a cool project. It's something that really interested me. This page here from the Mozilla doc was really helpful with the getUserMedia API and the syntax. You can see it gives you a lot of code samples. And then, of course, the podcast, I would highly recommend listening to that episode as well as all of them. I think there's like 25 or something like that. All right, so that's what we'll be building, guys. Hopefully you enjoy this, and let's get into it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started from scratch here. So I just have VS Code open, and I have an empty folder called VidSnapper. So this is where we're going to create our project. So first thing I'm going to do is create a couple folders and files. So we're going to have an index.html file. All right, and we're going to have a couple folders. So one is CSS, and one is, it should be in the root. One is JS, and, oops, not a file, a folder. So we want a folder called JS, and then we also want another folder called images, or I'm going to use IMG. All right, now the image that I use for the background, I mean, you guys can use whatever you want, but what I did is I searched for photo background, not really knowing what type of image I wanted, but I ended up finding this, where is it? Right here, this dark wood background. So that's what I used. Obviously, if you're gonna, make this into a production application or whatever, don't use this image. It's not a stock image, but I mean, obviously you can use it for just learning purposes. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that into. Let's see, that's the one I already built. I want to save this into CodeProd and VidSnapper and IMG, and I'm just going to save it as bg.jpg. All right, so we'll get that out of the way. All right, now that we have that image in there, we're going to create inside the JS folder a file called main.js. Okay, so that's the only JavaScript file we'll need, and we're just going to need one CSS file called style.css. Okay, and we could have put all these files in the same in the root directory, but I might do more with this application, so I'm trying to set it up as if it were a production app. So in the index.html, let's just go ahead and put some head and body tags. I'm using Emmet and VS Code, so I can just do exclamation tab, and it gives me our head and body tags. All right, so in the title, let's just call it what I call it, Vid Snapper. Man, kind of a stupid name, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to close this sidebar up to give us some more room as well. And let's link our style sheet. So it's in css/style.css. And let's go down here and link our JavaScript. So that's going to be in js/main.js. Okay, now you're going to need a server for this. What I'm doing is I'm using the live server extension in VS Code. If you want that, you can click on extensions, search for live server. You can see I already have it installed. Just go ahead and install that, and then you can actually just right click on the HTML and you can say open with live server, and it'll open on your local host on the default port of 5500. Okay, so how this works, how getUserMedia works, is it needs to be on HTTPS unless you're in Chrome on your local host. At least that's what I understand, is if you're using this on a real web server somewhere, you're going to have an SSL, you're going to have HTTPS all set up. If you're using it on your local host and you're using Chrome, then you don't need HTTPS. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of build out the markup, the UI. We'll just do that first. So I'm going to create a class of navbar. We're not using Bootstrap or anything. I'm just using that class, and then it's just going to have an h1 with the title of VidSnapper, and you can call it something else if you want. All right, now for the part where the actual video is, and we have the buttons and all that, that's going to be in a div with the class of top container. Okay, so in the top container, we're going to have a video element, and we're not going to have a source to it. Get rid of that. We're going to do that dynamically, but we're going to put an ID of an ID of video. And in here, what goes in here, if you don't know about the video element, is if it can't show for some reason, whatever text you put in here will show. So we're just going to say stream not available. Okay. And then underneath that, we're going to put the first button, which is going to be the take photo button. So I'm going to give this an ID of photo dash button. I'm also going to give it a class of BTN and a class of BTN dash dark. Okay, and I'm using Emmet here. If I hit tab, it'll turn into the actual element. All right, and inside here, we'll just say take photo. So that's our first button. Then we're going to have our select list for the filters. So let's put in a select, and we don't need a name. However, we do need an ID, so we're going to call this photo-filter. Okay, and then we're going to have some options here. So let's say options, what is there? I think there's like 7, so we'll put 7 of them in there. And for the values, what I'm going to do is put the CSS filter value. Okay, so let me just show you real quick, just in case you don't know about CSS filters. So we have different values like right here. So blur, brightness, contrast. Here's some examples. So for instance, for our grayscale, we're going to say grayscale 100%. For sepia, we'll say sepia 100%. Things like that, and then we're going to dynamically change those in JavaScript. Okay, but we want the values of the filter, of the CSS filter here. So the first one is actually going to be none, and we're just going to call this, well, I called it normal. You can call it none if you want. And then the value for the second is going to be grayscale 100%. Okay, you can change the percentage of the grayscale, but we want it full black and white. All right, and then in here we'll just say grayscale. All right, for this one here, the value will be sepia, and that'll be 100%. We'll say sepia or sepia, I don't really know how to say it. Then this one will be invert, and that'll be 100%. We'll say invert. This one here will be hue dash rotate, and we're going to put in here 90 degrees or 90 DEG, and we'll just say hue. And then this one will be blur, and for that we're going to say blur, and we're going to say 10 pixels. All right, and then this final one will be contrast, and we're going to use 200%, and then in here we'll say contrast. All right, so those are our filter options. So underneath the select, we're going to have a button, and we're going to give this button an ID of clear dash button. All right, and we'll just say clear, and then underneath that we're going to have a canvas. Okay, now I didn't really explain this part. Basically, the way that we're going to be able to snap an image is we can get our video and we can put it on a canvas, and then we can use a method. What is it? Let me just look at it real quick. Canvas.toDataURL, and we can actually format it as an image, and then we can create a new image element from that. Okay, so we do need the canvas. However, we don't want to show the canvas, so in our CSS we're going to display it to none, but we do need it here in order for this to work. Okay, and we're going to give this an ID of canvas as well. Okay, and I'll explain more when we get to the JavaScript part. So that's it for the top container. Underneath that we're going to have the bottom container, and this is basically where we're going to have all the images, and they're just going to be put dynamically into a div with the ID of photos. So that's all we need there. So that's it. That's all of our markup. Okay, and it looks absolutely horrible because we have no CSS. Now, I was debating if I wanted to do the CSS first and get it looking good, or the JavaScript, but I'm sure that most of you guys are interested more in the JavaScript, so we're going to jump to that first, and then we'll make it look good with CSS. Alright, so I'm going to try to explain this as we move along here. So first thing we want to do is just define some global variables. And I'm going to use let here, and we're going to define a width of 500, and this pertains to the video itself. And then let's do a height. I'm going to set that to 0 for now, and I'm just using one let and then commas, so this is the same as like doing let height semicolon let height, or let width semicolon let height semicolon, and so on. We also want filter, and we're going to set that to none for now, and we also want to set a value of streaming equal to false. Alright, and then put our semicolon in. So we also want a bunch of DOM elements to work with. So we want the video element. So we're going to use document.getElement by ID. We want the ID of video, and then we're going to just copy a bunch of these. So we have video, we have our canvas element. So that'll be canvas, and then this one will be for photos. Photos is basically the placeholder where all the photos will be put. We'll be using a little bit of grid CSS for that, and then we'll have our photo button, and then we have our clear button, which had clear dash button, and then we have our photo filter, which is the select list. Okay, so there's our DOM elements, our variables. Now we're going to get the media stream. Okay, and this is where we use our getUserMedia method, which is part of Navigator. So we're going to say navigator.mediadevices.getUserMedia. All right, now this takes in an object, and this is where you define if you want the video and or the audio. So we do want video, so we're going to set that to true, but I don't want an audio stream, so we're going to set that to false. But it will pick up your microphone if you set that to true. When you allow it in the browser, you'll get a little pop-up and you can allow or block. Now this will actually return a promise. It used to deal with callbacks, but now it's a promise, so that means we need to add .then. Actually, I'm going to put this on a new line like that. So we'll say .then, and then if there's an error, we want to do .catch like that. All right, so inside the .then, we're going to put a function. If you want to be fancy, you can use an arrow function, but I'll just stick to the callback here. And this takes in the stream, or this will give us the stream. Whoops. So stream. And then what we want to do is link to the video source. Okay, so we have that video variable, which we're grabbing from our HTML, so this right here. And what we want to do is we want to call .sourceObject, and then we want to set that to the stream that we're getting from getUserMedia. And once we do that, we can actually play the video by just saying video.play. Okay, so down here in the catch, we want a function. So this is if something goes wrong, then we want to pass in an error, or it'll give us an error. And then what we want to do with it is just console.log it. And I'm just going to throw some backticks in here, and we'll just say error, and we'll set that to whatever that error is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save, and that should just auto load. Let's see, it should be showing the image or the video. Let me see if I have an error down here. Video.sourceObject. What did I do here? Oh, it should be sourceObject equals stream. Shouldn't pass in stream. And there we go. So this code here is what is actually getting the stream from the webcam and putting it into that video element and playing it. Alright, so next thing we want to do is we want to call an event listener on the video object for the can play event. Alright, so let's say play when ready, and that's where we're going to define like all the widths and stuff like that of the video and the canvas. So we're going to say video.addEventListener, and we want to listen for can play, and then call a function. Alright, and that function will have an event passed in. Just move this up. And then we're going to check to see if the streaming value is false. So we're going to say if not streaming. And then this is where we want to define, we want to set video canvas height. So we actually want to define height, or redefine height, as video.video height, and we want to say we want to divide that by the what is it, the video.video width. Yeah, video.video width divided by the width. Okay, and then we want to set all the different attributes. So we want to say video.setAttribute, which is just going to set an HTML attribute, and we want to set the width to whatever the width is. Okay, we want to do the same with the height. I'm actually going to do 4 of these. So this one will be height. Oops, spelled that wrong. Alright, so we're just dynamically setting the attributes of the video. And then we want to do the same thing with the canvas. Okay, remember we have that canvas element. We want to set the width of that. and we want to set the height, so we want to change this to height. All right, and then we just want to set streaming to true. All right, now let's see. Oh, this also takes in another parameter of false. Okay, because we want that to be synchronous. And then let's save that. So now the video is actually 500. That's why it looks so big. If we look at the markup here, you'll see width equals 500. All right, and then the height is automatically set to 375 because of this formula we did here. But these weren't set initially. These weren't set here. We did this through the JavaScript. So that's what happened. What's the purpose of this here? And it also set the canvas. Now, if I were to actually, let's see, what do we want to do next? Let's do the take photo. Okay. Now we need an event listener for this. So we're going to go down here and we're going to say photo button dot add event listener. We want to listen for a click, and then we want to run a function. All right, we'll pass an event in here. And then we're going to call a function we're going to create called take picture. And then we just want to prevent the default. So I'm going to say e.prevent default, like that. All right, we're also going to make this false. Okay, and then let's create that function, take picture. All right, we'll just test that out. We'll just say pick. That should take in, actually no event. All right, so let's try that out. We'll go to our console, click it, and we get pick. All right, so in this take picture, this is where we want to create our canvas. Okay, so let's get rid of the console log. Let's say create canvas. So to do that, we're going to say const. I'm not going to go through like the basics of canvas or anything like that. We're just creating a context using canvas dot 2D or get context. Canvas.getContext 2D. Is that right? Yeah. And then we're going to check to make sure that there is a width and a height value. So if width and height, then we want to set canvas props. So we'll say canvas.width is going to be equal to the width. And then canvas dot height will be equal to the height. All right, then what we want to do is draw an image of the video on the canvas. So this is how we're taking the picture. We're going to take the video and we're going to draw it onto the canvas when we click this button. So to do that, we take the context. Okay, we created a context and we want to call it draw image. I should actually do a crash course on Canvas. But we want to say draw image, and then we want to pass in the video. We want to pass in 0, 0, and then the width and the height. And that will actually draw the image onto the canvas. Okay, now let's actually save that and see if I click take photo. There we go. So you can see that the top one is the video feed. This is the canvas. If I click it again, you'll see that, let me put my hand up, take a picture, and it's just going to keep changing the canvas. It just paints it onto that. All right. Let me just reload this. So, I mean, that's part of what we want to do. But we don't want to just paint it onto the canvas. We actually want to create images. So we're going to now create an image from the canvas. And we can do that by creating a variable. We'll call it image URL. And we're going to set that to canvas canvas dot, and then there's a method called to data URL. Sorry guys, I do have to glance over at this code because some of this is very new to me. Not so much this part, but the WebRTC stuff, or the getUserMedia stuff. And we want to set this to image/png like that. All right. So now that we have the image URL, let's actually console log that and see what that looks like. Okay, so if I take photo, and there it is. Okay, so let's go to the top. So this is what it looks like. This is basically a base 64 encoded image URL. So we want to take this and look at that picture. We want to take that and we want to basically create a new image element in the DOM through our JavaScript, and then assign that to the source of it. Okay, image source. So let's say create image element. And if you took my modern JavaScript from the beginning course, we did this type of stuff quite a bit. So we'll say const image, and we'll set it to document.createElement. Okay, so this will actually create a new element, and we want it to be an image. All right, next thing we want to do is, let's see, we won't do the filter just yet. But let's set the source. So we'll say set image source, and we can do that by taking that image and saying set attribute, and we want to set the source attribute to the image URL. All right, so just to recap what's going on in this function here, we created a new canvas. We set the width and the height. We drew the image on the canvas of the current, I guess, frame of the video. And then we created an image from that using this right here, toData URL. And we created an image, a PNG image in base 64 format. Then what we did is we created a new element into the DOM. We haven't inserted it into the DOM, but in JavaScript. And then we assigned that base 64 URL to that image's source. All right, so now all we need to do is append that image to the photos ID, which is right here. Okay, so to do that, we can simply say photos, because we already have that defined right here. Okay, so we want to take that photos, and we want to say dot append child, and then just simply pass in the image. All right, so we'll just say add image to photos. All right, let's save. Let's close this up. Let's click take photo. So this one right directly under is the canvas. This is the photo that was created. If I click take photo again, I'm going to hold up my hand, take photo. The canvas changes, and then we also added a new image. All right, if I hold up my fist, the canvas changes. You'll see it added a new image. Now what I want to do is get rid of the canvas. I don't want that there. I just want the photos. And we can simply do that by going to the CSS and assigning to the canvas element display none. All right, so now when I do it, it's just going to do the photos. If I hold up my hand, take another photo, there it is. Okay, and it's just going to keep taking photos. The canvas isn't going to show. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The only thing we really have left to do is the clear photos and the filter. All right, now the filter is pretty easy. All we have to do is, actually both are easy. We just need to add a couple event listeners. So let me just add a comment here. We'll say take picture from canvas. We put a comment here. Say photo button event, and let's do the filter event. All right, so we have a variable called photo filter. Wow, this is getting kind of long. Photo filter, and we want to create an event listener. Now, this is the select list, the photo filter. If we look up here, it's connected to the ID of photo filter, which if we look in the HTML is the select. Okay. Now, we don't want a click event for this, obviously. We want a change event. When you select something, that emits a change event. So that's what we're going to put here, is change. All right, and then we'll put a function. We'll just prevent the default behavior. And what we want to do is we want to assign a variable called filter. Did I call it filter? Oh, we already have the filter variable. Remember, that's up here in our global variables right here. And it's initially set to none, but what we want to do is set it to whatever's chosen. Now we can access whatever's chosen with the event.target.value. Okay, so whatever is in the option, for instance, grayscale 100%, that is what's going to be put into this right here, which will then be put into filter. All right, now that alone doesn't do us any good. If I save and I choose grayscale, nothing happens. We need to apply it to the video. So the way that we can do that is by saying video.style.filter. Okay, we can change any CSS value. We're changing the filter value, and we're setting it to whatever is in that filter variable. All right, so let's actually say set filter to chosen option. I just want this really, I want it nicely commented for you guys. And then we'll set filter to video. All right, let's save that. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose grayscale, and there we go. Sepia, invert. So now I can change the, whatever this is, filter. All right, now we want to apply this to the photos. Right now, you see how I have sepia chosen. If I say take photo, it's not in that filter. So all we have to do is go down here and apply that to the image. Okay, so just like we did the, let's see, actually we're just gonna go right here. We'll say set image filter. So we just have to say image.style.filter equals whatever the current filter. So now if I choose grayscale and I take a photo, it's grayscale. If I choose blur, take a photo, it's blur. Okay. Now the last thing we need to do in the JavaScript is the clear. We want to be able to do a couple things. First of all, we want to get rid of all these images, which is easy. And then we also want to set the filter back to normal in the picture and in the select list. So let's add one more event. We'll say clear event. So we're going to take the clear button and we're going to call add event listener, and we want a click function and inside here we want to clear all the photos, and all I'm going to do to establish that is say photo.innerHTML and set it to nothing. So everything inside the photos, actually that should be plural, photos, is going to be wiped out, so there'll be no more images showing. Then we want to just change the filter back to normal. So we'll say filter equals none, or I should say back to none. All right, and then we want to set the video to none, the video filter. So video.style.filter equals filter, which is now none. And then finally the select list, which is photo filter. We're going to set the selected index. Okay, so that's how we can access that. And we want to set it to 0, which is the first option, which is none or normal. Okay. We'll say reset select list set video filter. All right, so that should do it. Let's save. Let's go ahead and take a photo. Let's change the filter to grayscale, take another one, and now when we click clear, what should happen is these should disappear. This should go back to normal, and this should go back to normal. So clear, and there we go. All right, so our JavaScript is done. And I mean, it's, you know, it's how many lines of code? 97 lines of code, but it's pretty simple. Especially to get the webcam in the browser is very, very simple. It's just this chunk of code right here. So now let's make this look a little better. So we're going to go to our CSS, and we want to keep this in here. Let's add to the body. So we're going to add a font family of Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif. Let's also zero out the margin and padding. And for the background, I'm going to say black, and then we also have our URL, our image, which is going to be /img/bg. I think it was a JPEG. Let's try that. Yep. So those of you that are kind of new to CSS, I'm doing // because if we look here, we're in the style sheet in the CSS folder. We need to go outside of the CSS folder. So that's what this does. And then we're going inside the image folder and then using the BG file. All right, so one more thing for the body. I want to put overflow X because we don't want any horizontal scrolling. So we're going to set that to hidden. All right, now after the body, we're just going to add the nav bar. So nav bar, we're going to give a background of 333. Let's give it a padding of 15 pixels and a height of 40 pixels, and then a color of white. And save. All right, let's see. We also want to do for the H1. The reason the H1 looks like that is because, or the reason for this spacing right here is because headings, H1s, and all headings, they have margin by default. So we just want to set that to 0. And we also want to align it to the center. And save. There we go. Now for the top container, which is this, all of this actually, the buttons, the select, the video, that's all in the top container. So let's add that, and we want to set the width to 500 pixels. We want to set the margin. I'm going to say 30 pixels on the top and bottom, and then auto on the left and right, which will move it to the middle. All right, so we'll save that. Good. See 30 pixels up top and bottom, and it's moved into the middle. So for the bottom container, actually, you know what? Let's do the controls first. So we have let's see, did I add a class? Yeah, so the photo button has a class of BTN and BTN dark. I actually want to add a class to the clear button as well, or a couple classes, BTN and then BTN light. Kind of stealing some Bootstrap classes. So let's see, we'll say BTN. We want this to display as a block. We want to set the width to 100%. Let's set the, do we need a height? No height. We just want padding 10 pixels, and let's set the margin bottom to 5 pixels. Alright, so that takes care of the BTN, which both of those buttons have. Now let's do the BTN dark, which is going to have a background color of 333, a color of white, and a border of 666, 1 pixel, solid. Alright, so there's the take photo. Now the button light will have a background of F4 3 times, a color of 333, and a border of triple C 1 pixel solid. There we go. So now there's our buttons. Now for the select list, that has an ID of photo filter. But you know what? I don't want to style it with photo filter. With the ID, I want to add a class to it. I think that's better practice. So we'll just say select. Oops. Alright, so for select, we're going to add a height of 40 pixels, a background of 333, color of white. Let's add padding, 3 pixels. Let's see, I can't remember all of it. I'm going to add width 100%. Let's add a border of 1 pixel, 666 solid, and I think that's it. No, margin bottom of 10 pixels. Let's save that. Good. Alright, so we can go ahead and change these. Alright, so we're almost there, guys. Let's see, if we take a photo, that doesn't look very good. So let's do that. The photos are wrapped in a photos ID, I believe. Yeah, so they're wrapped in the photos ID. So I actually want to display that as a grid. Alright, so we'll say display grid. And then as far as the grid template columns go, and if you don't know much about the grid, I'd suggest watching my grid crash course. But what we're going to do here is set these to 3 fractionals, so basically like 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR. So if we were to do that, you'll see they're going to do 3 across. Okay, now we can make this shorter by just saying repeat. I know there's a lot of technologies mixed in this video, guys, but hopefully you appreciate that and it doesn't just confuse the shit out of you. But we're going to say repeat 3 times 1 FR, which does the same thing. So if we go ahead and add photos, goes across 3 times. Okay. Now I want some spacing in between because right now they're right next. You see how there's no spacing. So we're going to add a grid gap of 10 pixels. All right. So now when we take a photo, now we have that spacing in the middle. All right. So let's see. In order for these images to kind of stay within the container, did we do the bottom container? No, we didn't. So let's do that. I should have did that first. So let's say bottom container, which is wrapped around the photos. We want to set the width. I actually want to set a max width because we want this to be flexible to 960 pixels. And then we want to set the margin to, what did I do? Where the heck is it? I did margin auto, and I did 10 pixels padding. Alright, so that's the bottom container. So take photo. Now if I want these to kind of be for the width to be basically for them to fit into the container, then I have to set the actual images to width of 100%. So let's say photos image, and we're going to set the width to 100%. And I think that's all we need to do here. Oh yeah, and I added a border as well to the images. So we'll say border 3 pixels, white, solid. All right, let's try it. Take photo, there we go. So now they're fitting within that 960 pixel or max width of 960. So you'll see that's max width of 960, but since we used max width and not just width, then they'll shrink down with the width. Okay, so this could actually look good on a mobile device as long as it's 500 pixels. I mean, we could change the video to something smaller, but I think that looks good. Awesome. All right, so I think that's it, guys. I think we're done. Let me just double check, make sure we have everything. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing. I guess I could just go over the JavaScript once again. Basically, we're just setting all of our variables, including our DOM elements, the width, the height, the initial filter of none, streaming of false, and then we use getUserMedia, which takes video and audio, true or false. We're just getting the video. And you, by the way, you should have got a pop-up on in your browser asking you to allow your webcam to be accessed. I didn't get it because I had already done it in the past. And then we get the stream from the promise. We set the video object, our source object, to that stream, and we play the video. All right, down here, we're listening for the can play event on the video, and we're saying if it's not streaming, we want to set all the heights and widths and stuff, and then we want to set streaming to true. All right, and then the let's see, where's the photo button? Right here, photo button, we're listening for a click. We call take picture, and if we look at take picture, it creates a canvas. It draws the video onto that canvas, and then we basically turn that canvas into an image URL. Okay, then we take that image URL and we assign it to a new image that we create within JavaScript. Then we add the filter, okay, whatever the chosen filter, and then we append that image to the photos element or the photos ID. Okay, and it gets added down here. All right, and then when we change the filter, so photo filter change, we're just setting it to whatever's selected, and then we're applying it to the video. All right, when we clear it, we're just taking everything out of the photos ID, which is this right here. So I clear it, it puts everything, the HTML just gets set to nothing. Filter gets set back to none. The video filter gets set to none because we set it here, and then the photo filter select item goes back to the first option here, which is the 0 index, which is normal. Alright, so that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this application. I liked building it. I liked learning about this, and I definitely want to look more into WebRTC and different things you can do with the real-time communication and maybe build some kind of video chat application. But thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, I just want to mention our sponsor, GPD Host. So if you're looking for affordable, fast, and quality cPanel hosting, look no further. They offer many types of packages that include a free domain name, free SSL certificate, a website builder, and more. All hosting plans are completely managed and easy to work with. You also get automatic weekly backups. So whether you have a website to transfer or you're building it from scratch, GPD Host is a high-quality solution. To learn more, visit gpdhost.com or click the link in the description below.